Vicki Pearl.
Present.
Michelle Dennis.
Present.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Harry Brown.
Present.
Tracy Brown.
Present.
Jason Domkowski. Jason Domkowski. Lisa Dullum.
Here.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Jody Hamilton. Jody Hamilton. Quorum present.
Thank you, sir. Briefing session.
Thank you. UZO Amendment Number 110, Stockwell Overlay District, has been continued to the November 15th APC public hearing. The rezone petition Z-2901 M3J Properties LLC has been withdrawn by the petitioner. All other cases are set to go forward tonight.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the September 20th, 2023 public hearing as submitted.
Second. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution PD 2305, 4UP LLC, Shane O'Malley, 4UP PD Z2848.
A second.
Okay. This project was approved by City Council back in September of 2022. They've had a fairly complex site, a lot of moving pieces, and so but the developer's finally able to get his construction plans together. This is the site. In fact, the site's already been demoed and cleared. If you haven't been out there, it's basically staged for construction now. Let me see. Will we get a new one? It doesn't seem to be working very well. All right, well. Anyway, the two alleys are one's being vacated, one's being adjusted and relocated, as you see here on the final plat. And then the project will then kind of wrap around that alley, that proposed alley change. And all of that has been approved of by the city and we're moving forward. So final detail plans does have the construction plans and final plat. Bonding is needed and I believe already in place and has been approved by the city, the amounts anyway. So everything is in place to begin construction on this project. So we are recommending approval of Resolution PD 2305.
Thank you, Ryan. Does the petitioner or his representative wish to make a presentation? If? Pardon?
Looks like they didn't show.
Sorry, I was. Kevin Riley, attorney for the petitioner. I think we've met all the requirements of the ordinance and request your approval.
Thank you. Does any member of the audience wish to comment on this petition? Any questions from the board? Okay, please fill out your yellow ballot. It's already done.
Yeah, already there. Thank you.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution PD 2306, Landmark Properties Incorporated, Beau Perdue, landmark on the levee PD Z2875.
A second.
All right, staying in West Lafayette, this is the big proposal on the levy that was approved in July of this year. This is the construction plan approval only. There's obviously a lot of infrastructure work happening with this project, so they will be coming back for final plat approval later. That will avoid them having to bond and while they work on the numerous infrastructure items with this project. The most significant one, of course, is the realignment and repurposing of Howard Avenue and the creation of the first of the levee grid street system. So fairly significant proposal. So again, this is just construction plan approval only, so no bonding is required, but everything is in place for them to begin with the approval and recordation of these construction plans, which will allow them to do clearing, grading, infrastructure work only. They'll have to come back with any necessary bonding with the final plat approval in order to actually go vertical. So be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, recommend approval of the resolution.
Thank you, Ryan. Does the petitioner or his representative wish to make a presentation?
Good evening, Kevin Riley, attorney with Riley and Teeter and Schreier, representing the petitioner. Again, we've met all the requirements of the ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the audience wish to comment on this petition? Any questions from the board? You have a yellow ballot.
And we have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Thank you, Ryan. As we go to public hearing, let me read our procedures. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the Commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we're only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we're hearing a request for a change in zoning, we're trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and then those of you who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We're a 17-member body, and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners, who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room before using your phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission.
I move that there be incorporated in the public hearing portion of each application be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report, and recommendations on the applications to be heard this evening and responses from checkpoint agencies.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'm ready to hear the continuance.
I move to continue UZO Amendment 110, Stockwell Overlay District, to the November 15th APC public hearing.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move to hear and vote on UZO Amendment 111, Omnibus Amendment.
I second. Good evening, David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission, here with the Omnibus Amendment, which has two different components, both of which are proposed minor changes to the zoning ordinance. The first would square the zoning ordinance's definition and use of the phrase modular home and manufactured home with current Indiana Building Code. Right now, Indiana Building Code's definition or rather our definition, our zoning ordinance's definition of manufactured home is what Indiana Building Code refers to as a modular home. Our ordinance does not contain the phrase modular home, so this would be a squaring of our ordinance with Indiana Building Code. Mike Wolf, our building commissioner, has requested this change because the out-of-datedness of our ordinance has caused some confusion amongst the folks that come to him for permits. So this would correct that language and then put the word modular home in our ordinance. The second component involves agricultural rental halls. If you'll recall, within the past several months, the ordinance was amended to include specific design and operational standards for agricultural rental halls involving limitation or prohibitions on outdoor amplified music, limited operating hours, things of that nature. And those are all intended to preserve, the tranquility and serenity of agricultural areas where agricultural rental halls, might otherwise disturb them. But agricultural rental halls are also allowed by right in the general business district, which is, not necessarily an agricultural area. So those prohibitions on things like operating hours and outdoor amplified music don't apply so much. This came to our attention because there is a GB zoned in Montmorency, the former school, just south of 52, is being refurbished for use as a restaurant / agricultural rental hall, a banquet hall, and I think a brew pub too. They wouldn't meet any of those design standards because it's not an agricultural area. So we are proposing that those standards meant to protect agricultural areas apply only to agricultural areas and not to the GB district, where agricultural rental halls are also permitted by right.
Okay.
It's weird because agricultural rental hall is what we call all rental halls. We don't have a separate category for banquet center or that kind of thing. Even if it's not agricultural, it still appears as agricultural. So this just doesn't assign the same protections to our heavy business districts as it does to the agricultural districts. Any questions?
Questions? Okay. Thanks, David. Does any member of the audience wish to comment on this amendment? No other questions from the board? You have a yellow ballot, please. I think.
I didn't want to run again. 15 ballots cast, all in favor.
Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on S 5153, Commerce Place subdivision, Phase 2, replat of lots 3 and 4, minor sketch.
I second.
All right, good evening, John Burns, Area Plan Commission. The site tonight is on South Street in front of Target, and if you look, this area all in pink is what's general business, so we're in the general business zone. This is the lot in front of Target that contained formerly a CVS. And if we zoom in, you can see also on the bottom left-hand corner of that lot is a drive-through ATM that I believe is still in operation, but the CVS has been closed for some time. So currently, we have 2 lots here, and you can see the ATM on the bottom corner is on a small lot, and the proposal is to replat these 2 into something a little bit more equal size. Staff has not been made aware of any proposed use for these lots, and recommends approval with all the standard conditions.
Does the petitioner or his or her representative wish to make a presentation?
Hi, I'm Philip Cohen. I'm the owner of the 2 lots currently that I'm looking to replat, and basically here to answer any questions that you might have regarding it. So,
Okay. All right, thank you.
thanks.
Does any member of the audience wish to comment on this petition? Are there any questions from the board? All right, you have a white ballot.
I messed up myself.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Thanks, Ryan.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2900, Imagination Lofts LLC, John Crone and Greg Malakis, Urban Point Plan Development, CB and R2U to PDMX.
I second.
All right, staying in Lafayette, we're in the historic Centennial neighborhood on its western edge, close to the river. This project is a 2-site plan development. This is one unique aspect of plan developments. You can do multiple sites that don't necessarily touch. This project is kind of twofold. The larger of the 2 sites on 4th and a remnant of Vine Street that's just north of it there. That is the mixed-use building. It's going to be ground floor retail, parking, and then apartments, units on top. On the corner of 4th and Wall, across the street to the east, are townhouse-style condominium units. So they will look and read like townhouses, single-family attached homes on fee simple lots, but they will be a condo regime. And then there is a parking area that's proposed for it on the back. Here's the proposed plat. Basically the individual unit lots and parking area, and then the main lot 1 for the mixed-use building. And then here's a proposed simple site plan here of showing the landscaping. Of course, public utilities are available for this site. This is in the historic Centennial neighborhood. Their neighborhood plan was approved in 2012. A form-based overlay was approved soon after, and that controls kind of by right development. Plan developments are exempt from that code. But the code does say that the form-based code should sort of influence plan development negotiations, and they did, in my opinion. Both of these projects kind of meet in my opinion, the intent of the form-based code, what we were trying to shoot for. On this west side of the street, of the main drag here, Fourth, is sort of the near downtown environment with this mid-rise mixed-use building serving that purpose, largely only breaking with the code by a fifth floor instead of 4. And then the townhouse units on Wall definitely are in keeping with that historic context of these row house type units that already exist historically and in a modern context in this neighborhood and in other near downtown neighborhoods in Lafayette. And so this kind of moves staff's needle to recommend approval for this, that this would, I think, work well with what the neighborhood plan's intent was, and respect large elements of the form-based code without hitting it exactly on the noggin. For one example, we do have Mr. Teeble completed a home, or near completion, on 9th Street and just north of North Street's intersection. That's actually the first form-based code project that went through Centennial that was, fully met the requirements and was approved. Modern home, but built to meet that code. And so, so I think this is, even though it doesn't, it's not using the form-based code here, it is drawing heavily from a lot of its elements. And again, that's enough for staff to be pleased with this effort. And so we are recommending approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Ryan Munden with Reiling, Teeter, and Schreier here on behalf of the petitioner, Imagination Lofts LLC. We concur with staff's report and recommendation. In particular, we agree with the comment in the staff report that this was a sensitively designed project in light of the Centennial Neighborhood Overlay. I agree with Ryan that this project meets the intent of the form-based code. With respect to height, we're at 60 feet, which is approximately 10 to 12 feet higher than what's provided for in the overlay. This site was a former manufactured gas plant. Indiana Gas shut down operations in the 50s, at which point they started dismantling the bins. I've handed out some historical photographs. Actually, the first is a postcard. On the third page, you can see the bins that used to be on this site where the apartment building is going to be. And then the last 2 pages also show kind of additional aerials of what used to be there. To the north was the former Thiem and Wagner brewery. The brewery is approximately 70 feet tall, and it would have come down in the late 60s, early 70s when the Harrison Street Bridge was put in. The point of these pictures is to show that historically on this site and in the area, there were structures that were significantly taller than what we're proposing here. Environmental problems showed up during the railroad relocation in the 80s, and approximately 53,000 cubic yards of soil were removed and monitoring wells installed. These issues impact our height as well. In 2022, environmental restrictive covenants were placed on the apartment building site, which prohibits residential on the first floor. So that had to be taken into account during our design, which helped us to get to the 60 feet that we're at. In May and in August of '23, our client initiated formal meetings with the Centennial Neighborhood Association to discuss this project. On May 8th of this year, our client invited members of the neighborhood to tour a similar property developed by the petitioner, which is the Pullman Station. There have also been a number of informal meetings with the neighborhood president dating back to the fall of '21. These meetings have all been very positive, and the feedback that we received during those meetings has been incorporated into the project that we have for you this evening. We believe the project will create an impressive gateway to Lafayette as you cross the bridge from the west. We also believe the project provides much-needed housing and a housing type that is currently underserved by existing inventories. We're excited about this development in this part of downtown, and we appreciate the city's work with us to get to this point. We would respectfully request your recommendation of approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this proposal?
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director for the City of Lafayette. We are in support of this project. The developer, John Carone, has worked with me, my department, and the neighborhood to create a project that, as staff phrase, respects the intent of the neighborhood plan and form-based code overlay. However, as we stated, it does not conform completely with the form-based code overlay, and that's why it's before you tonight, the planned development. As a planned development, this required negotiation among the city, the neighborhood, and the developer, which allowed for more input and changes than would have been allowed to build as right within the current zoning and form-based code overlay. John Carone attended 2 neighborhood meetings and made changes to the architecture, particularly to the rental building, to better reflect the neighborhood and its history, such as the multi-story historic Thiem and Wagner Brewery building, which was formerly located in the area, reflecting its urban style and some of its actual masonry brick details. He also agreed to insurances such as targeting downtown service and entry-level professionals as tenants with an appropriate rental price point without sacrificing quality or of construction or amenities. Other changes were made to the owner-occupied townhomes with materials and the architecture, particularly on the 4th Street side, facing that side. As with any PD, it's a negotiation and compromise, and though neither side got everything they wanted, both sides were able to agree upon many positive changes that we feel will create a lasting asset for the neighborhood, the downtown, and the city as a whole. So asking for your support and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Matthew Bishop, 600 North 4th Street, Lafayette, Indiana. I'm with Imagination Station, direct neighbor to these mixed-use developments that are going to be happening right here in this area. We support this idea. We love the idea. It brings much-needed revitalization to the area, and it also will help bring in some new people and new businesses to the area to help us grow as a business, but also help the community grow in a lot better way with new development and that type of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone? I'm sorry.
For those that have spoken, if you could please come up and sign in after you've spoken. Thank you.
Robert Martin, 522 North 5th Street, owner of one of the brownstones. This project will be about a block away, and we talked to 12 of the current residents of the brownstones, and we are in favor of it. We think it add to the community, and we don't see any reason to be opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Michael Hunt, and I live at 602 North 5th Street in the historic Centennial neighborhood. Lived there for almost now 30 years. A lot has changed in that area, and the neighborhood association and neighbors living there, a small group, are largely responsible for the enhancement, the change. I might point out that I'm part of the group that is funding the the project mentioned that's being developed with John Tiebel on North 9th Street. our money is involved in that as well. So as I say, I've lived there for about 30 years, and I'm here to oppose, as indicated, the project. The opposition is based on this document. They recognize it. This document is the Historic Centennial Neighborhood Plan, and it is a land use plan for Fourth Centennial that was developed in 2012. And the plan was to project activities and projects that would be desirable, branching out, extending out 50 years. The neighborhood, Centennial, boundaries are to the north, Union Street; to the south, Ferry; to the east, North 9th Street; and to the west, North 3rd Street. North 3rd Street, North 4th Street are in this document. We refer to it, that is the corridor, 4th, 3rd, and 4th Street corridor. And that is a distinct part of the neighborhood, and that is where the proposed project is to be located. The document for 3rd and 4th Street corridor projects that the land use is for commercial, residential, mixed use, and which this project fits that category. There is another architectural characteristic that is also part of the area of the plan, and that is that tall buildings, relatively tall buildings, are to be concentrated to the south end of the neighborhood towards Ferry Street, where they would be compatible with, like, the former Haywood Publishing Company and other tall buildings in the center city area. And the recommendation is that these relatively tall buildings would be located at the fifth end along the Ferry Street, and would taper and become smaller, shorter, as you progress north till you've got to 2- and 3-story buildings up in the Union Street area. That is not what is the plan. That the projection, the project is in opposition to that, the height requirement. So that is why I am here to oppose, because I've lived in the neighborhood for a long time. We put a heck of a lot of energy into this land use plan, and we think it's still a good plan, and we'd like to see it supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Rebuttal from the petitioner.
Thank you. Again, with respect to height, the form-based code allows us to be at 4 stories. We're at 5. We believe it's a minor deviation from the standard. And as we've shown you in the historical photographs, the height that was historically there before those structures were taken down was significantly taller than what we're proposing. And kind of the unique characteristics of this site with respect to the environmental covenants create a situation that got us where we're at, or helped get us to where we're at. It wasn't the only reason. But again, staff aptly notes that this was designed sensitively to that land use plan, and I think this was a reasonable solution that we came up with. So,
thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just one comment. It sounds like maybe I heard 10 feet. This is just 10 feet taller than what the plan called for, and it seems like that just adds more density, which I think is a positive thing in the downtown area. So I think it's a good plan.
Thank you. All right, you have a yellow ballot, please. Oops, I'm sorry.
We have 14 votes in favor, 1 against.
Thank you, Ryan. This case received a recommendation of approval and will now be heard by the Lafayette City Council at their meeting on November 6th. Next case.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2906, Nicholas C. Rohr, R1 to AW.
I second. Thank you. David Hiddlegen with the Area Plan Commission, here with the rezoning request. The requester is Nicholas Rohrer, owner of the property at 1351 South Sharon Chapel Road. This is just southwest of the Purdue Airport on the east side of Sharon Chapel and a little bit north of River Road. It's 5.85 acres, currently zoned R1, single-family residential, and the request is to rezone to AW, which is agricultural wooded. The property is on septic and well, and there's no plans in the immediate future for utilities to extend out to this area to allow for larger scale residential subdivision development. The A1 district, or rather the AW, Agricultural Wooded District, is intended to allow for low-density residential, conservation-oriented uses, particularly on land where there is sloping terrain, where there is established forest areas. And in fact, the AW district is what is recommended by the Wabash and Tippecanoe Township land use plan as it is currently being developed. That will be adopted ideally, hopefully sometime either later this year or early next year. And as conversations about land use are coming up about this area with regards to that planning effort, the general consensus is that this area south and west of the airport should have a conservation focus and should be mindful of environmental sensibilities involving the river and the floodplain. Here you're looking at the site. Again, it's just a little bit under 6 acres. It is accessed by Sharon Chapel Road to the west. There's a house and some accessory structures, and then the rear of the property is heavily wooded. And it is here before you tonight because there was a zoning violation issued. Neighbor had called in and complained that there is an animal sanctuary operating from the site, and there is, and it's zoned R1, which doesn't allow for that particular use. So the violation was issued, and the petition or the owner called, discussed options, and the options basically are stop doing what you're doing, file a land use petition to legally establish it, or appeal the issuance of the violation, and they chose to file this land use petition, which would legally establish it. But it's really just half of the story. If they are successful in rezoning to AW, then they'll need to file a special exception to allow for the specific animal sanctuary use. That would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals if this is approved. Having said that, what's on the table tonight is simply the rezoning. It's just the question of whether AW is an appropriate district for this property. All the consideration of the specifics and peculiarities of animal sanctuary use would be part of the special exception petition. So tonight, this portion of it is not terribly complex. It's just, is AW, agricultural wooded, a compatible district with this site and with this area? We do recommend approval for the reasons noted. R1 is probably not suitable for this area. It's a larger lot. Again, not a major subdivision. These are meets and bounds lots that are kind of piecemeal put together, and again, all quite a bit larger than your typical major subdivision. Utilities are not contemplated for this area, so AW is a suitable district for this site. And with that, staff would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, David. Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Hi, Nicholas Rohr, 1351 South Sharon Chapel owner. We do have animals on the property. Love every single one of them. But for the property itself, as you can see, it is mostly wooded, and all of our utilities, except for gas, is separate to the city itself. It's outside city limits. We look forward to going forward and trying to get the special exception to the property so we can continue doing what we're doing for the community as well as for the animals themselves.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Todd Boyd, 1199 South Sharon Chapel. So we're not showing the zoning map of all the other properties around us. I know Mr. Hiddle did say that they're larger lots, but all of us are R1. So all of the properties there and all the neighbors have large residences, large properties. We are not in favor of having an animal sanctuary at the entrance of our little dead-end road. It used to go all the way through, but so at some point, Purdue came and you know, they acquired the rest of that land, so Sharon Chapel doesn't go all the way through, so it's a small little neighborhood. It is not in an association of any means, but long story short, none of us want an animal sanctuary, and that's the whole intent of this whole rezoning. All of us are R1, all of us want to stay R1, we want to have a quiet neighborhood. We've all been impacted, and that's the whole reason zoning laws exist, to protect people like us, and you know, this will definitely devalue our properties.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Any questions from the board?
For the gentleman that spoke, could you please come and sign up here at the desk? Thank you.
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Rohr, you have an opportunity for rebuttal.
All I would like to say is that the property itself, the sanctuary, is not a public use. We have less than 5 events a year, and it's typically a large hour-based thing. We'll have at most 20 cars at one time come in and out as quickly and efficiently as possible. We have no plans of being public as well. We just want to be in our own. The events themselves are solely to try and help offset the costs of the sanctuary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, any questions from the board?
So the number of events that could be held and that would all be that still has to be determined, right? That's determined separately. So even if we approve this, whether or not they can have events that's not a given. Just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, anything involving the animal sanctuary use at all operational, dimensional, structural, would all be discussed and determined and voted on at the BZA meeting.
And if we approve this to AW, what are and they don't get that exemption for the animal sanctuary, what are are there any other implications?
No, if you approve it to AW and if they get the special exception denied,
Yeah.
they can continue to live there. They can't operate the animal sanctuary. Yeah.
All right. You
I
ready?
have a question. I guess
Go
or
ahead.
it's more of a statement. I appreciate what they might be asking, but I think we've seen lots of other things come through here that would have been called spot zoning, and so I'm conflicted. And not only that, we're saying that it could be changed in the plan that's coming forward. Well, we don't know that for sure yet. That's still in the works. And there's been other things that had the same type of underlying, but then it was said to be said no because it was going to be going a different way in the possible plan. So I just think we need to think about all that.
Okay, thanks, Vicki. Anyone else? Okay, you have a yellow ballot.
I think it, he's going the other way. He switched. Oh, yeah.
15 ballots cast, 10 in favor, 5 against.
This case then has received a recommendation for approval and will now be heard by the county commissioners at their November 6th meeting.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2908, Harvey W. Biddle, R1 to A.
A second.
Okay, so for this rezone petition, we're up in Washington Township in the unincorporated town of Americus. The property out here is outlined in black. We zoom in, we can see that these are 8 lots, as well as 2 vacated alleys, so it's one big property. Petitioner is asking to rezone this property from R1 to A so that he may locate what we used to call a mobile home, but after tonight we'd call a manufactured home. Mobile homes, manufactured homes, are only permitted in the rural districts, but not in the R1 zone. The R1 zone would allow a stick-built house, but not this manufactured home petitioner is wishing to build. The R1 zoning in this area dates back to 1965 when zoning took effect in the county. We've had a few rezones in the town of Americus to agricultural to allow for mobile homes, now called manufactured homes. But there is no sewer currently serving this area, so staff can support a rezone to the agricultural zone. Yeah, and this exhibit here just kind of shows how the, I'm going to say north, south, and east-west alleys have been vacated along with the road on the west side of the property all in 2013. So after that vacation by the county, this essentially became one property. The lots have been platted long enough ago that they can be used together as one. So at the end of this, petitioner will have a total of 1.375 acres.
Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Thank you, Kevin Riley with Riley, Teeter and Schreier, representing the petitioner. I'll make this brief. I appreciate the time staff spent on this. The plan is to put a manufactured home on the site. It will be on a foundation. It will be connected to a pole barn, which will also serve as a garage for the dwelling. It will be owner occupied. I think this is an appropriate and compatible zone for what's in that area, and we request your approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak against this petition? Questions from the board? We have one more yellow ballot. Oops, I'm sorry.
I got 4 lights that have the tavern that I talked to Wagner about. I think they're going to take them. But I found them in the attic of the old golf course, which was the one I tore down.
Okay.
They're clear back.
We have 15 ballots, all in favor of the rezoning. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. This case received a recommendation of approval and will now be heard by the county commissioners at their November 6th meeting. Administrative matters, we have one.
Thank you. This, in 2024, Juneteenth, which is a holiday, will occur on Wednesday, June 19th. So if we want to have this meeting, we need to move it. We found out that Thursday night is taken, so Tuesday, June 18th would be the only other option. I don't think this needs a ballot or anything like that, but maybe a nod of approval from the dais.
As we all get our phones out to look. Mine's the 18th is the only day that week that doesn't have a dot on it, so. Any thoughts? You okay with that?
That's great. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Good, we'll amend our schedule. Thank you.
Do we need to vote on that?
Not necessarily. It's taken
Okay.
by consent. Everybody agrees, so I think you're fine.
Okay, there are no new subdivisions filed, so no executive committee agenda approval yet. Determination of variances, there are none of those. Director's report.
Thank you. The director's report was emailed out yesterday. Don't have anything to call out, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments? All right. Citizens' comments and grievances. Before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge that Dr. Bullock's Civil Engineering 361 class is here tonight, and thank you for being here. And if you are interested, I'm sure that some of us will hang around a bit if you have any questions or such. But we appreciate your attendance. Any citizens' comments or grievances? Hearing none,
I move to adjourn.
we are adjourned.